What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hawk Talk on Melrose YouTube page, where we are going to talk some Hawks. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and share with your friends. That is all we ask, and let's roll. All right, here we go. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose. Unfortunately, Tyler, this year is probably one of the most inconsistent teams I can recall, which is so weird to me because with everybody coming back and how experienced we are, like, it'd be one thing if we were a young team, we were playing a lot of freshmen or sophomores, but that's not the case. And yet here we are, one game or two games, we look good. And the next game we look bad. And that's really been the story of the season.
Yeah, that's a really good theme to kind of describe the season as a whole right now, the inconsistency from this team, especially on the road. I mean, yeah. we look like a completely different team when we play at home versus on the road. I mean, you see it. When we play at home, we can score 40 points a game. When we're on the road, I just did the math before I hopped on. It's an average of about 18.75 points per game, which, isn't good. And I'm not going to blame just the offense, particularly in these last couple of road games. It's been the defense as well. It does not look like the team that, I think like you mentioned, what we thought this team was going to be this year, with all the guys coming back, especially on defense too. So, very, very disappointing game to watch. I thought that the start was unbelievable, getting up 10-0, and boy, did it change from there in a hurry.
You brought up, what did you say again was the average on the road, like
18.75 points per game. So just under 19 points a game when we're on the road.
So you go back to the last couple years, our defense was so elite that we still win those games, right? Because we only give up probably 14-ish points. And that's what it just feels like. It's like the last couple years, I mean, offensively, we were just not very good, but we were getting the job done. And it really started with the elite defense. This year, our defense has definitely taken a dip. I'm not going to say it's still a horrible defense, because I don't think it's a horrible defense. We only gave up 3 points in the second half. I mean, yes, we gave up 17 in the second quarter, but definitely a dip. It's not the elite defense that we have kind of been accustomed to the last few years. And you knew eventually that was going to happen. Like, we're not going to stay like that forever. I mean, you look at every team in college football, at some point, they kind of fall off a tad bit. I mean, look at Georgia, right? I mean, they're just not quite the same. Alabama, right? Like, teams like that, there's always going to be a dip at some point. And unfortunately, it just so happened, it happened on the year that our offense has been a little bit better. Like, of course, right? The last 2 years, all we were asking for is like a slightly better offense to pair with that elite defense. And we didn't get that. I mean, can you imagine if we had, and I'm not saying our offense is that good this year, but it's definitely better. Can you imagine if we had this offense like last year or the year prior? We're probably maybe making it to the college football playoffs. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And I want to start off similar to Michigan.
Real quick, and I think that's why a lot of Iowa fans are frustrated. Now with the 12-team playoff, we thought we had the team to try to get there, and obviously that wasn't the case. So,
and that's what,
that in there.
For me, like, it's now official. This has been a disappointing season. Now, when we lost to Michigan State, it was like one of those things where, okay, we have 3 losses, still kind of disappointing because we're out of the playoffs, but we can still rebound here, maybe win out. We could still have a 10-win season if we win the bowl game. We have some trophy games ahead of us. It wouldn't have been like a very successful season, but it would have been okay. Last night, or the night before, because we're recording this on Sunday morning, definitely 100% now a disappointing season at 4 losses with everybody that you came back with, the schedule that you have. Definitely disappointing. But let's start with the defense first, similar to the Michigan State game, because as I was sitting in my living room, the last time I watched the game in my living room was the Michigan State game, because I went to the last 2 home games, and it felt like I was rewatching that game again, because it was similar. Night game, we come out, although this game we actually came out and we looked pretty good. The Michigan State game, it was like, where have we been? Like, it was like completely bad. But defensively, it felt like the Michigan State game, missed tackle after missed tackles after missed tackles. I'm going to share the screen right here. Total yards for them, 415 total yards. The passing yards wasn't really something I'm going to be concerned by, because they're not bad passing the football. It's more the rushing yards, especially for a team that was dead last in the Big Ten. Let me say that again. Dead last in the Big Ten. They were averaging like 70 yards per game rushing the football. And they came out and they absolutely dominated us, 211-80. If you would have told me before the game, okay, one team finishes with 80 rushing yards and the other team finishes with 211, I would put a lot of money on Iowa with the team that finishes with 211 because our defense usually doesn't give up many, and our offense as of late, especially with Sullivan at quarterback, we're putting up a lot of yards rushing. So that is what lost us the game. Their third down, 9 for 14. They finally, at some point in the game, punted the football, which was like the first time in like 20 drives. Now, yes, we had a couple turnovers in there that helped, but goes to show that we just can't get off the field these last 2 away games. Missed tackles after missed tackles. And we were fortunate to go into half only down by 7, considering, they should have maybe scored on that one red zone drive that we got the interception. They had another interception to start the game. You take those away, who knows? Do they score on those 2 drives? And is it a 31-10 ball game at half or 24-10 ball game at half?
Yeah, I think you just hit on all the points I was going to mention, Collin. On the surface, when you look at the final score and you say the defense only gave up 20 points, it's a little misleading if you actually watch the game. There was plenty of opportunities where they were on our plus side of the field ready to score. And to Iowa's credit, we did force some turnovers. You say, how do you lose this game? You only gave up 20 points. You forced 3 turnovers. Well, you mentioned it. You got leaned on in the run game. And, when a team like that who can't run the ball at all, dead last in the Big Ten, controls the clock, 37 and a half minutes to 22 and a half. I mean, and they're running for 5.5 yards a carry, well over 200 yards. It's going to be tough sledding, especially on the road like that. And so you mentioned it again, missed tackles. I don't know what's going on with that. And now I could say it too, like, especially on the road, like offensively and defensively, we just don't play with that same level of swagger that we do at home, where guys are making, plays obviously offensively. Sullivan, providing that swagger on offense, defense, Castro and Jamari, providing those big hits and interceptions. We just don't see it on the road. And I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, last night it started with UCLA's ability to run all over us, and we just couldn't stop it.
Yeah, 37 minutes time of possession. They had 73 total plays compared to our 46. Something that just you cannot let happen. The one good thing about this game, and it didn't matter in the long run, but it should have, is they had 9 penalties for 84 yards. We only had 2. So, you got to take advantage of that, but we did not. Really, for me, what it came down to, and this is what concerns me, because this is a first-year head coach, first-year regime, similar to Michigan State, right? First-year head coach, first year in this new regime. Yet we got dominated at the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. And we're talking the defense first, so I'll talk defense. Defensive line, especially in the running game, did not look good. We were getting dominated, and that was, in my opinion, a concern. And it's usually that is something that we pride ourselves on, and we just did not do anything about that. And then, offensively, the offensive line, we couldn't get anything going because it seemed like every time we ran the football, their guys were in the backfield. Like, they blew up our offensive line. There were numerous times where our offensive line completely whiffed. And it just did not look like the offensive line the last 2 weeks. The Northwestern game, the Wisconsin game, man, they were looking so good. And we come out here tonight, and it was like, is this a completely new personnel that's not in there? and really, for me, it's like you sit here and it's like, man, is Northwestern's and Wisconsin's line of scrimmage play that bad?
Yeah.
Or did we just have an off night? Like, I don't know, because we've been so inconsistent. I really don't know at this point what it is. Consistent. Let's switch to the offense now, because we got to talk a little bit the quarterback situation. I thought to start the game off, man, like, you couldn't ask for a better start. We get the interception, and we score in that first drive. We have a nice, quick passing play to Jacob Gill that sets up a easy 1st and goal. We get the touchdown. And then on the next drive, we get another interception, and then we get the 57-yard bomb to Jacob Gill. We have not seen that yet this year, a long, long ball.
Yeah.
And it was a beautifully thrown ball by Sullivan. And when that happened, I was like, man, like we are rolling. We are taking what we did at the Wisconsin game and we are bringing this into this game. Sullivan looks great. We're doing good. And we get into the red zone, and we've been really good in the red zone, right? We were 15 for 15. We scored on 14 out of the 15 drives. And so it's like, man, like if we score here, go up 14-0. I'm not saying the game's over, but we're looking really good. And I think, and I said this to you, I texted you this. Now, I'm not using this as an excuse of why Sullivan played bad, but that 3rd down and 5 or whatever, when he rolled out, he got absolutely drilled. And I texted you right away because I was like, man, he can't, you could see by his facial expressions, like he got drilled and I think he's hurting a little bit. And then they show him off the sideline like shortly after. And I texted you this as well. We go to all the home games. We sit behind the bench. Like we see Sullivan, he's always standing up. Like he's never sitting down. And they show him on the bench sitting down. And I even texted you, I'm like, that's not a good sign. I think he's a little hurt. And once again, I'm not using that as an excuse because I don't want people thinking, because we've been obviously advocating for Sullivan and we've been defending him. And I don't want people thinking that just because, he has a bad game that we're going to come up with all these excuses, because he didn't play good. But I do think he was seeing ghosts, and I think the injury, something was clearly not right. He couldn't run very well. He kept getting hit. And then he threw that first interception. He fumbled, which was just a good play by a defender. And I just think it was a little bit of both, right? Like he was lacking confidence, but then he was also just banged up, and you could just tell he couldn't run very well. He was kind of limping all over, and that's just not good news.
No, and I think it's a 2-part answer here. I think you're right. I think he got you saw it. He got smoked, and I don't know if it's a rib injury or what. He took the wind out of him.
Kirk said he had a sprained ankle, is what the injury.
That's okay. So was it ankle? Okay,
that's what he said anyway.
He definitely got rocked, and I think he felt it. And then he consistently felt it after, because he took some more, and in my opinion, very unnecessary shots throughout the game. I think there was plenty of times where he was able to get down, after a scramble or throw it away before he's running out of bounds. And he just, and maybe it goes back to him finally getting his shot, right, and wanting to make a play. But it's like, man, you're the guy now. The guy after you's a 5th-string quarterback. He's a walk-on. He's a practice squad linebacker right now.
He is literally a walk-on. He's not on scholarship.
Playing practice squad linebacker right now. And so there's not, much room for error after you go down. And so he's got to, I don't want to say play it too safe, because then you're not really being who you are. And, then you're just asking to be injured. And I get that. But, man, there's certain times where I felt like he needed to get down and he didn't. And so that, is a little bit on him. But, I'm sure we'll get into it too. I thought the play calling after he got injured didn't make a lot of sense to me. Continuing to run him in the RPO game, clearly after he was not 100%, didn't make a lot of sense, because teams are going to be crashing on Caleb Johnson. He's going to have to pull it, right? And if there's nothing open in the passing game, he's now responsible to run and get yards, and he can't because he's injured. And so that to me didn't make a lot of sense. I think that put him more in harm's way too. And even if it didn't, now you're asking an injured guy who can't run to get down after a couple of yards after a scramble, which doesn't really do anything for your offense either. I thought Tim Lester didn't have a great plan after maybe he got injured early.
So first, I do want to give credit to UCLA. They go into the game, they were like 10th in the nation in rushing defense, and boy, did they just tee us up, begging us to throw the ball. They completely took Caleb Johnson out of this game. Not like Caleb going into this game was going to win the Heisman, right? But he was kind of in that, talking. Well, after this game, he completely is out of the discussion, and because you just can't have a game like that, right? But it's not really his fault. Going back to the offensive line, what I was saying 5 minutes ago with the line of scrimmage play, every time he got the ball, it seemed like there was 2 or 3 UCLA defenders already in the backfield. You just can't let that happen. But yeah, going back to Sullivan, his first interception, that was not a good throw. He forced it. But kind of like what we were talking about that night, though. Every quarterback is going to make a mistake. You watch at an 80 level, they're going to make a mistake at some point. Even the best of the best. Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback probably in the NFL, right? He's thrown a lot of interceptions this year. It happens. So then that happens, and then he gets a fumble, which is very unfortunate because we were driving. We're at the UCLA 47. It was a nice little run by Brennan Sullivan. He gets a fumble. So at that point, you're a little bit injured, but you're also lacking a lot of confidence. What I wanted to see was, okay, let's start doing some easy plays for Sullivan to just gain back some confidence, because all it takes is like one drive where we go down the field and we score, then you get your confidence back. So I wanted to see some screens, some quick speed out, some just quick things, maybe do some jet motions with Weegen or something, get something going. And to your point, we just kept kind of doing the RPO, the read options, and he kept getting drilled, and it was just night over. And yeah, I mean, with the play calling, man, I've been loving everything about Tim Lester, and I still do. I just think last night or Friday night was just not a really good game for Lester. I really don't. I just didn't really understand kind of what we were doing. We didn't see one jet motion type play, to Cade and Weegen or someone, Jacob Gill.
Reverse we didn't with him. No.
Yep. We didn't see did we do a pitch play, that staple pitch play that we see a couple times a game. We didn't see Jasmine Patterson one time. Just the entire game, it just didn't really, outside of the first two drives, it just didn't really make much sense at all. So yeah, Brennan Sullivan, man, like, I'm not going to sit here and defend him. It wasn't a great game, right? Like, he started off the game good. He didn't, he clearly got a little injured, but he didn't play a very good game, but it happens. I still want to see him the rest of the way, because I still think he puts us in the best possible situation to win games, and more than likely he is going to be the starter next year. I think we will go out and get a quarterback, but I do think more than likely he will be the starter. And so at this point, the season's practically over. I know that's not Kirk's mindset. It's, this is the team. We're going to keep, we're not going to look to the future, but it is pretty much over. And I'm sorry, but if Cade would have played the other night, I don't think we see much of a difference, right? Like, I really don't. Do we have 3 turnovers? Does he have 2 interceptions, a fumble? Probably not, but we've seen the turnovers by Cade too. It's not like Cade is totally immune by not turning the ball over. Ohio State game, he had 3 turnovers in the second half. Northwestern had the pick 6. So it's not like he doesn't turn the ball over either. So I still want to see Sullivan the rest of the way. Unfortunately, I just have this feeling that, and we talked about this after the Wisconsin game, even after Sullivan went off, I was still a little like, feel like at some point Cade's going to get another shot, because I just think that's how Kirk rolls. And now it's the perfect time to kind of use the injury excuse for Sullivan, kind of, he didn't play very good. He had 3 turnovers. All right, Cade's back. He's cleared concussion protocols. All right, let's put him back in. And if I had a bet, dude, like, I would say there's a 60, 70% chance the Maryland game, Cade McNamara is the starting quarterback.
Yeah, it's a very real thing now again. And like you said, I think that to me, the Cade experiment, it's over with. I don't think what he provides is much different or better than Brennan Sullivan.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw Brennan Sullivan at the beginning of the game launch a 50-some yard pass. We got Jacob Gill over 100 yards receiving. When's the last time a receiver had 100 yards receiving at Iowa? I don't know. I think somebody brought it up, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I forgot what.
2021 or...
Yeah, I forgot what it was, but it was a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, clearly he has the ability to throw the ball. Clearly he has the ability to run the ball. I still think he, like you said, he gives us the best option. Listen, the theme of these losses are when we can't get Caleb Johnson going, it's going to be a struggle, right? Because the passing game still isn't where it needs to be with this Iowa football team. And, when everybody's crashing and shutting down Caleb Johnson and he has 50 yards rushing on the game, more often than not, we're probably going to lose that game. And, you saw that again last night. Now, the passing early on was great, but after that, it was non-existent. And so, what's Cade gonna do out there that's gonna be much different? If Caleb Johnson is not running the ball effectively, is Cade McNamara throwing the ball that much better than?
That's why I don't think
Sullivan. No, he's not.
No,
he's not.
That's why I don't think if Cade was out there, I don't think the story would have been much different, because they would have just, like you said, they still would have teed off on Caleb. He probably would have finished with the same amount of yardage. And you still got to beat them in the passing game.
We throw the ball more, but we're probably turning it over at some point more too, right, through the air. So, yeah, I don't think it makes much of a difference.
Yep, and I also want to give credit to Jackson Stratton. I don't think we should, do this episode without bringing up his name, because he was 100%. Put in a tough situation, and he comes in, and frankly, I thought, like, there's no way we score again when he comes in, and he leads a drive where we go down the field. We had that lucky, or I shouldn't say lucky, but we got that penalty that helped us, get the ball back, 15-yard penalty, and we score a touchdown. He had 2 really nice throws on 3rd down to Jacob Gill. We score, and I really, really wanted to see at the end of the game just one final drive to see if we could just set up a field goal. But going back to our defense, just could not get stops, missed tackles, and even when we knew, hey, all they're going to do is run the football, we still couldn't stop them. And then they do that one passing play, and Jamari, it's like, what are we doing? And that's been, going back to the defense quick. We didn't really talk about it, but man, the secondary again, this game just felt like it got exposed. Just too many wide open opportunities. Deshaun Lee, especially, they were just attacking him left and right. And this is one thing I was going to say too. Their offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, who was at the Chiefs, pretty good coach, right? Pretty good offensive coordinator. Yep. He completely outcoached Phil Parker in this game. I mean, he out-schemed him. I mean, he took things that he knew would work. He continually just attacked Deshaun Lee's side, because they know that, Deshaun Lee, not a bad player, but just not that good. And that's what they did. Similar to Michigan State game, right? They just kept attacking that side, whether it was in that game, it was TJ Hall and John Nestor. And they just kept doing it. And credit to them for that. But just talking coaches, I just think this game, we just got completely outcoached. Like, honestly, I really felt like that offensively and defensively. It just felt like we came in we just didn't have like a solid game plan. It just felt like all over the board. And I mean, the way we started, it looked good, but it just completely, turned 180. And next thing you knew, that was the result of the game. So
talked about after last game, like, there's still a chance to win 10 games, with a bowl game win. And it just doesn't, every loss, sucks. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But when you lose to a team at 2-6 on the road, it hurts, right? It sucks.
So, yeah, we have 2 more games left. I can't believe this season, how fast it's gone. I was going to text in the group chat yesterday. It's like, man, like, I felt like it was just yesterday. We were week 2 in Iowa City tailgating for the Iowa State game. And that was week 2. Yeah. And now we are already in the middle of November, and the season's almost already done. So we play at Maryland. Oh boy, another road game. Traveling bye week, instead of Maryland, west, right? East. Yeah. Yep, bye week.
Yep.
Then we play Maryland. So at least we get the bye week, but we normally don't do good after bye weeks. I mean, that's been kind of the trend under Ferentz. So that's not good. And then we play Nebraska. So I think at this point, if I had to be a betting man, I say we split the last 2 games, whether we beat Maryland, lose against Nebraska, or we lose at Maryland, beat Nebraska. So I think if I had, like I said, if I was a betting man, I hope I'm wrong here. I think we're going to finish 7-5 this year, which is where Vegas had us. So, hey, Vegas always knows, right? I thought that was the easiest bet I didn't end up betting it, but I thought, like, okay, man, like, this easy bet, right? Over 7 wins. Like, are you kidding me with the schedule we have with everybody returning? Looks like that might be the case after all. So, yeah, it's not good. I guess before we end this, I know we don't really talk much about other teams and stuff like that, but I guess we can a little bit here, a couple minutes since we have a little bit of time. But Iowa State losing again, back-to-back games. I know we both watched yesterday, man, like that. It's weird to me because Iowa State, prior to the UCF game, their defense was like just playing so good. And then they played UCF, Texas Tech, Kansas in their defense. And they've had a lot of injuries. So I'm not, that's kind of one of the reasons. But man, like their defense has fallen off. I mean, I don't know if you saw what their total yards were. Iowa State's total yards were last night. They had over like 400 yards. Like they were never in the game, which is crazy. Like, right? Like think about like Iowa. Like if Iowa had 400 some yards, we probably win. Or like we're at least in the game. And the fact that Iowa State was really never in the game with that many yards, like that's not good for Iowa State. So they're at 2 losses and they essentially need to win out. If they don't win out, they're done. I mean, if they win out, they still have a chance to make the Big 10 or Big 12 championship. BYU, but they need BYU to lose 2 more games for sure, and they need Colorado to lose 1 more game. So
because they're sitting at 3rd place right now.
Yep, they're sitting at 3rd, and BYU wins out or just loses 1 more game, they're in it. And then if Colorado just wins out, they're in it. So, and the thing is Iowa State with 2 losses, they're not going to be an at-large bid, right? Because number one, they're only probably they're only going to take 1 or 2 teams, and they're not going to take Iowa State at this point. So that is what sucks for them.
Well, that game was crazy to me. Just like you said, defense letting Kansas basically do whatever they wanted, whether it was throwing the football, running the football,
that first
whatever.
half.
I mean, wow.
First half was like, wow.
And I didn't see that coming because I mean, Kansas is, they're not a bad team, but they underperformed from what I think a lot of people expected them to do this year.
Well, did you see how many like 1-loss games they had this year?
Yeah.
Like they could have easily been like 6-2 or 5-3, going in this game.
It's crazy.
But now it's looking like Iowa State was a team of destiny. Now it's really looking like BYU, and similar to Iowa State going into the season. Who would have thought BYU was going to be undefeated still? Like they were. I would have loved to say. I would have to go back and look to see what they were picked to finish the conference, but I know damn well they weren't picked up in the top half. I know that for sure because it was for sure Utah. Oklahoma State was up there. They suck. Utah sucks. Arizona was up there. They suck. It's like the Big 12. It's weird because everybody that was finished to pick towards the bottom are like in the top and then vice versa. So it's one of those conferences where it's like every week teams just beat up on each other. And when you talk playoffs, that's not a good thing because then you're going to be left out when you have a lot of teams just beating up on each other and then everybody finishes with 3 or 4 losses, So.
Yep.
Well, that will do it for this episode. We will be taking a couple week break here since we have a bye week this week. We'll be back after the Maryland game. Hopefully positive. It's been a roller coaster this year of positive, negative. We had our negative, so hopefully we are back to being positive for the Maryland game. But yeah, that will do it for this episode. Have a good rest of your week and go Hawks.